Sometimes I like when you're dealing with sellers who are acting like that. I have no idea. I'll go like, okay, look, if I come to the property and I make you an offer, how are you going to decide if I'm robbing you or if that's a great offer? Anything that's just kind of wasteful time. Like, I don't like going to appointments. Like, if it's going to be like a small shitty deal, like I'd rather do less deals and have a higher average deal value and just not be on the phones or not be trying to underwrite a million deals all day long. Like, I'm okay doing that. Like in 2021, that was like our first eye-opening year where I was like, oh shit, we did $1 million, but it was off 20 deals. So like, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So if I see a situation and it just doesn't, it should be pretty obvious that it's a deal. You shouldn't have to like
convince
really
yourself.
Go in a deep underwriting and be like, well, maybe if we, like I hear a lot about like the lender, oh man, like that deal's not going to work because my lender's charging me 2 points. It's like, if 2 points is going to be the make or break on a flip, you probably shouldn't be flipping that deal.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. We are super excited to have with us today. We have Ricky Morgan, also known as Real Estate Ricky on Instagram. Ricky, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, man.
Yeah, great being here, guys.
Awesome. So we have the New Jersey connection with Ricky, formerly from New Jersey, right? Is it fair to say you grew up in Princeton?
I lived in New Jersey for 24 years.
Wow.
I grew up in Freehold.
Okay.
So Monmouth County, and then I moved out to Arizona, 6 years ago. So
nice.
And how old are you, Ricky?
I'm 30.
Okay, got it. One thing that's important, and it's the reason why we asked you to come on, is part of like majority of the people we've had on are real estate professionals that sell real estate, and the natural progression for someone who's an agent or in real estate sales is to naturally progress into actually developing and owning real estate themselves. And
that should be the natural progression.
That should be the natural progression. So it's almost like it's our responsibility to bring on individuals like yourself to educate those viewers. So this is going to be pretty epic. So let's get into the lightning round so we can jump into those questions.
Just to touch upon that, it's always tough. I mean, even myself, like we grew up in like coaching programs, right? To just be these insane like listing agents.
Yeah.
So for years we kick ourselves because we had our blinders on to just try to find listings. So I'm sure, there was dozens and dozens and dozens of homes that I listed that I probably should have bought, wholesaled, or flipped. So to think that it's taken me this long to get more and more excited about wholesales and flips is frustrating. But
it's utterly pathetic, John.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are seeing the light, but I call it realtor brain.
Yeah.
Like I just talked to some realtors and they just get stuck in realtor brain.
Yeah. Well, we had Pace Morby on, we're name dropping, 2-3 weeks ago. And Pace told a story about a woman that he connected with. And I'm going to butcher the story, but he was
a contractor.
He was a contractor.
And he was developing properties that she owned. And she was like, you're stupid.
She shook him by the shoulders and was like, Pace, you should get into real estate. He's like, I am in real estate. She's like, no, you should own real estate. And, stop becoming a service provider, being a contractor, just fixing other people's real estate. And, so I don't know. It's the overall message here is, and you always say it, it's the business where like insider trading is legal, right? Yeah. We see deals that come across our desk every single day, and it's legal to actually go ahead and buy the deal, right?
Below value. Yeah.
Why would you not participate more, especially when creative guys like you and Pace are out there showing people, literally sharing with people how to buy property without your own money. So
cool. I think too, like just sometimes the best option isn't to list it with some of the motivated, distressed people. So we'll get more into that for sure.
Yeah. Sick. Let's wrap up this lightning round real quick.
All right. What are the top 3 things on your bucket list?
Top 3 things on the bucket list. Travel like most of the world. I haven't been too much outside of the country besides like some islands in Mexico. So I'd like to see like the other kind of like Europe and Asia. So definitely travel. Play Augusta National. I'm a big golfer. So play Augusta / like go to the Masters. Definitely on the bucket list. And I guess have some children.
Pop them out.
Yeah, I think you should probably do it in that order.
Yeah, right.
If you have the kids first,
you can't travel and you can't
screw everything else up.
Yeah, exactly. I got to get those first two done.
What's something you'll never do again?
Drink like I did in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, never doing that again.
What was the worst drinking story you have?
I don't know, man. But I did go to Rutgers. So
Brunswick?
Camden.
Damn.
I commuted. Yeah.
Got it.
I did like the whole like communiversity thing. So happiest decision I ever made was not getting into bad college debt. Like I pretty much went to college for a couple $1,000. But yeah, a lot of crazy drinking stories back then.
Have you quit drinking these days?
Nah, man. Drinking's cool.
Yeah,
I still drink like one day a week, just not, putting down bottles before parties and crazy stuff that you do in college,
Yeah, I'm trying to stop doing that.
As you get older, you realize like if I go hard tonight, I'm gonna be messed up for 2 days.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, dude. It's like I can only do one day a week at the most, or I'm done.
And if you have nothing to do those next 2 days when you're younger, it's no big deal, right? But when you have a full schedule the next day, it really sets you back.
Yeah.
100%.
On that note, should we take this shot?
I have been sipping mine.
All right, good.
Ricky, what's the best advice you ever received?
Probably just don't overthink and take action and learn through your mistakes. I think that's gotten me pretty far. And earlier in my years, I would overthink things too much and feel like I had to have everything figured out. So now I'm much more like just take action on it and figure out the problems as you go.
I love that one. That's like a big one. It's funny because a lot of the times when we would analyze certain deals after we had that kind of like, what are we doing? We should analyze it in different ways. You find a great deal, you analyze it, and then you're like, but what if this happens? But what if the news is actually right and the market does drop 5%?
What ifs never happen?
Well, yeah, but I wish that was the thinking process. But when you have something right in front of you, and you're like, but what if this happens? And then now the numbers don't make sense because you're calculating an extra 5% in like, oh shit.
Yeah. I mean, we've said it on here a million times. Action is better than perfection, right? Just taking action every day, moving the ball forward. And not to fill this with a million cliches, but the one that always comes to mind with me is Grant Cardone, I think, said it. He's like, commit and then figure out the rest later. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So if a deal comes across your desk to buy a 10-unit building and the numbers look pretty damn good, even if you don't have the damn down payment, just say yes. Make the offer. You'll find somebody to partner with you to find that down payment. You'll find somebody to lend you the money for the down payment. You'll find a way to get the loan. You'll find a way if you're committed. Cool. Let's jump into it.
Sounds good. All right. So Ricky, walk us through your story. How did you get your first deal? How did you get into flipping and wholesaling?
Yeah. So like I said, I grew up in New Jersey. I graduated from Rutgers with a business degree. So just like general business. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I was applying for jobs and I took a sales job cold calling for Yelp.
Wow.
So like the app where you find restaurants and
Yelp is the mafia technically.
Yelp's the mafia.
Right. The mafia. So it was a tough job because business owners fucking hate Yelp.
Yep.
Like absolutely hate Yelp. Like they're the mafia, high reviews, and I'm calling them trying to sell them advertising.
Yeah.
So I would make 80 to 100 cold calls a day to business owners. So it was a really tough job, but I honestly recommend, like, if you're out of college, you want to make money, or even if you never go to college, get a sales job where you have to cold call.
Yeah.
And you have to get really good at, bringing value right away,
getting rejected,
talking to people on the phones, objection handling, kind of all that stuff. So I got really good at that. And I kind of thought in my head, I'd probably just continue on, climb the corporate ladder. Made my first 6-figure year in my early 20s. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. But then I got moved into management. I realized the way corporate America kind of works, you kind of have to play their game. And, that's just not really me. I'm kind of don't do very well listening to others, or like if I have my own opinions on things. So I was like, okay, I don't think I want to do this forever. Like, I don't want my boss's job and I don't want to climb this corporate ladder. So at that point, I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to figure out something else to do, something more like on my own. So I went hard into kind of just on the internet. I was looking at crypto. This is like 2015, 2016. So I'm looking at like crypto, stocks. Yeah. Just like starting businesses. And then real estate obviously came up too. So I was reading a lot of books back then, kind of got big into like self-development to kind of mature from that, crazy college 20-year-old to like, all right, I got to get my shit together. I want to be successful. I want to make millions. So it took a lot of time reading a lot of books, educating myself on different things, and real estate made a lot of sense to me. At the time, it was like rich dad, poor dad cliche, right? But definitely changed my mindset on kind of what I wanted to do. So after that book, I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy rental properties, and I'm going to buy enough rental properties where then I could like quit my job and the cash flow is just going to replace my income. So I bought my first rental in 2018 after saving up pretty much like every last dollar I had from my sales job. I wasn't going out on weekends. I was eating like canned tuna fish just to buy this shitty Trenton house for like $85,000. And at the time, I bought it kind of the traditional way. So I didn't buy it at a very deep discount. I put 25% down and it worked. Like it was cash flowing. It was making me a couple $100 a month, but I realized I wasn't going to be able to get to, I probably needed at least 20 rentals to quit my job. And at that rate, putting 25% into each deal, that wasn't going to work on my timeline. That would have took me 15 years to do. And I was trying to get out of this job in like the next year. So I was like, okay, how can I get deeper deals, get discounted properties? So I kind of went down the rabbit hole and figured out wholesaling. So wholesaling and flipping houses and going direct to seller with marketing made a lot of sense with my background. I knew marketing. I knew how to talk to people on the phone. So it was like an easy transition to kind of be like, okay, I just have to cold call homeowners and then kind of go through the same process of just qualifying people out. So 2019, I partnered up with Steve Kipnis. He's out of New Jersey. So he's my partner in New Jersey. At the time, he already had 20 rentals. So we played college golf together. And he hit me up. He knew I moved out to Arizona. And he's like, are you in real estate? Or like, do you know much about the Phoenix real estate market? And I'm like, oh, I'm just like starting to learn. What about you? And he's like, oh, I own 20 rentals. So that really, I was like, wait, my college, like you, Steve, the one we played college golf and smoked weed together, and like you own 20 properties now.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of my like eye-opening, like, okay, if Steve could do it, this is something I could like definitely do as well.
Yep.
So what Steve didn't know how to do though, he didn't know sales, he didn't know marketing, but he did know like transactions. He's a licensed realtor. I'm not. He knew how to renovate properties. So our partnership made sense where we kind of had different skill sets that we were bringing to the table. So when we partnered up, it was, I was going to find the deals, contract the deals, and then he was going to figure out the best way to dispo those deals. So quit my job in June of 2019. I like saved up 6 months of living expenses and enough money for some marketing. And I kind of had a strategy in place. I started already sending out some marketing while I still had my job, but didn't get my first deal until I guess it was like September of 2019. So a few months after I quit my job, I found a distressed property, wholesaled it, made like $5,000. And then things just started to unfold from there. We started reinvesting more money into marketing, started doing more deals, and we ended up doing our first $1 million net profit year flipping and wholesaling in 2021.
Nice,
man.
Wow,
that's great.
Good for you, first and foremost, for taking that leap, because you did one wholesale. What were you targeting initially? Like, were you going after like probates, distressed properties, expired listings? Was there a specific niche you were going to, or you just shotgun style?
Pretty much all those like distressed filters when we started. So pre-foreclosures, tax liens. Tax liens are a great one for us in Jersey, especially because tax is so high there, where if you don't pay your taxes for like 2 years, you're in a pretty big hole compared to like other states.
Sure.
It's $500 a year. Yeah. It takes you a while before
it adds up.
It's really become financial distress. Yeah. Inherited properties, probate type leads. So just anything where there's an increased chance of a problem situation, to find that motivated distressed seller, which that's the name of the game. If there's no problem to fix, you're not going to buy a house at a discount. Those people are going to call up some stud realtors like you to get top dollar for the property and list it on the market.
Yeah,
sure.
The hardest thing I feel is like understanding the standards that you need to have and like understanding the procedure in which to identify the deals. Because sometimes you could see like a distressed property and you're like, this is a deal. And you're like, but not for that price. What are your standards that you have for a wholesale, for a fix and flip, or for a rental that you want to hold?
Yeah. So before I even figure out the exit, like the goal is always to try to, figure out if you could buy it at a deep discount. Mm-hmm. So that varies in every market. Like for instance, in New Jersey, our target is 50% or below, like the after repair value. Mm. In Phoenix, a more competitive market like over here, 70% is like a decent deal, or like 65%. So it's not
after repair value.
Yeah, after repair value. So just in Jersey, it's a multitude of different reasons. There's like less exits in New Jersey, maybe less appreciation possibly. It's just not like a growing market like Phoenix. So you kind of like in smaller markets, typically you're going to have to buy at deeper discounts. So it's not necessarily about the property being distressed. It's more about the seller being distressed. So sometimes like the property is in okay shape, but there has to be a problem, situation, motivation in the seller's life of like why they want to sell at a discount. So what I do is like, I don't even get a lot of information about comping the property or condition. All I'm focused on in that first phone call is, how can I help? If you're calling me, you must have like a problem, a situation where, you need an easy button type solution where I'm just going to buy the property in a couple of weeks as is, cash, and you're done with it. So I want to figure out what is that reason. So I do a lot of qualifying out. So essentially, like one of my first questions will just be like, hey, John, it looks like it's a really nice property. Why don't you just call up KIRO and have him list it for you? And then let them tell me the reason why they don't want to list it. So that seems to be pretty effective because, people aren't going to just come out the gate and be like, hey, I have this property, my mom just died.
I need to dump it.
I have terrible credit. I need cash. So you have to kind of finesse that in the conversation of just trying to reason with them and also giving them all their options. I think some people look at our business, we're the bottom feeders. We're just trying to rob grandmas of equity and get their properties. But our process is always the same. It's like, we always like to give the sellers all of their options. Hey, you can put money into it and then list it. But, that's going to take a few months, those types of closings with loans, you never know, could fall out of escrow, this and that. But we always like to give them all their options and then really have them tell us, no, Ricky, this is why I want to sell to you. And I'm okay selling it at a discount, doing that.
Yeah. It's an interesting shift because so many agents would probably hear that and be like, why would I tell them that they can list it? Why would I remind them of that? It's like the Mike Ferry script says, like, have you considered selling this home on your own? Like asking a seller, have they considered doing a FSBO? And people are like, I would never ask that. Why would I remind them that they could sell it themselves? And it's like, no, it's flipping the switch, and they're giving you, like you said, they're going to end up giving you a lot more information.
And I think it builds credibility and trust too there, right?
Sure.
You're not necessarily needing to get that listing in that situation.
Yeah.
You're not sounding desperate. You're more coming in as a consultant and, you listing it is an option, but hey, maybe if they want to list it themselves and you give them that information, more power to them.
Yeah. So walk us through that process. So now, are you doing most of these calls, or do you have outbound callers or ISAs?
So I mostly do all the calls. So we don't do a lot of like cold call marketing these days. Yeah. So like most of my phone calls right now are coming from mailers. So, we send out a few thousand mailers a month that say, we buy houses in any condition, want a cash offer, give us a call. Or our website ranks pretty high organically on Google searches for like, if you go on your phone, type in sell my house fast, New Jersey, you'll see our website, Savannah Properties, is like one of the first ones that come up.
Sure.
So then people fill out forms that way, and then I call those people. So those are more like inbound leads.
Yeah.
Which those are my favorite, especially in my industry, because they are looking for someone like me specifically. The problem you'll have sometimes cold calling and trying to wholesale is you deal with a lot of the tire kickers or, 90 90% of people aren't even ready to sell. And then, only 5% of people are going to be good fits for guys like us.
Yeah.
So if you're cold calling and you're like, hey, would you consider an offer on your house? They'd be like, sure. How much?
Yeah.
But now you're not dealing with people, like when I worked at Yelp, for instance, and I would call a business owner, I could potentially convince any business owner to spend $5 a day on Yelp ads.
Right.
I can't convince a homeowner to just sell a property at 60 cents on the dollar.
Right.
Just because, I build good rapport or, I have a good script. So that's really where it kind of comes down to that motivation and situation when I'm going through that phone call.
Yeah.
Well, it's another flip when they're calling you, right? Like if you're doing all the outbound prospecting and they answer the phone and you're asking, well, would you sell your home? A lot of times they're like, well, you called me. What's the offer?
Yeah.
And like the example I always give the agents in our office is if somebody called and said, hey, if somebody called me and said, hey, would you consider selling your iPhone? I'm like, sure. What's the offer? I paid $1,000 for it. If you give me $1,500, I'll give it to you.
Right.
So who wouldn't say, yeah, I'm open to an offer, right? It's sort of a silly question because everybody, how much?
And that's why in our business, like when I was first starting out and had a very small budget, I would just pull a big list of data and I would cold call it because I didn't have another option really to generate leads. So kind of when you're new and starting out and you don't have a lot of money, you might have to do that type of outreach, the kind of the grunt work that no one really wants to do. But if you don't have money, you gotta go knock doors. You gotta go make the cold calls. But as we grew our business, what we decided instead of hiring, and we've tried different things, we've had salespeople and not, but what I learned is like, for instance, last month we did 2 deals. We'll make over 50K on both of them. And I think I made a total of like 7 phone calls all month.
Wow.
So just like very qualified leads and then just qualify them out. So I'm okay with paying premium for a lead at this point and just not being as busy during the day, making 1 million cold calls essentially.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was actually talking to John the other day. It was actually yesterday we were talking about this. A lot of the people that we're talking to right now are the ones that desperately do need to sell just because of the market shifts or the interest rates and whatever the case it is. So there's a lot of pain that they would go through if they did sell, but those are the people that really need to. And I was telling him, I was like, a lot of these people now are just like, well, give me an offer. I don't want to list the property. I just want to sell it clean. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we do that too. Or full service brokerage. Let's talk about that. But then I'm not used to that approach. So we were talking about some of like the standards that you would need to know before going to meet with that seller. So like as an agent hat, when I have agent brain on, I know what I need to do. I need to know motivation. I need to know the timeline. I need to know price, decision makers. Like I need to know what I need to know from there. When it's investor focused and I'm going in there as a purchaser for the property, what are some of the key things that I need to know to be best equipped to handle that situation when I meet with them?
Yeah, I think like most agents are totally equipped to do the same exact thing that we're doing. I think the way you need to approach it is just, you got to go in investor first, agent second.
Yeah.
That's what we're learning the hard way.
Yeah, because you can't, it's hard to say, hey, I could list it for this price. I might be able to get you this and then come in, but I could also give you a cash offer and then it's like super low.
Yeah.
That doesn't work too well. So I would come in more, how can I help? I love just that question and then see what the situation is, so you really got to just focus on the motivation, focus on too, like what's their equity position, what's going on with the property. Does it make sense? Like you already know all of these things. I just think the only thing you have to add is I like agents will go into a distressed, messed up house and they'll just like walk out and be like, I don't want to list this property. Instead, it's like if you walk into that situation, you see what's going on there and you go, this person can't list this house. This isn't a good fit for list it. You don't even really bring up that idea until you go, hey, I think in your current situation, I am a cash buyer. Have you thought about what's a price you want for it if you're going to sell it this easy, convenient way? And to your point, John, that's always like the pivotal point of the conversation. So many sellers are like, I have no idea. I don't know. Make me an offer. But I just don't believe it in my experience with like about 95% of sellers. Most sellers they have an idea. They have a range. They have, whether they looked at the tax assessment bill or they Zestimate, or they talk to their neighbor Sally, and they know, like, almost every seller initially is going to say, I have no idea, make me an offer. Yeah. But they do. So
they know. They wouldn't have called you. Like, they got your postcard, they called you. They're prepared for that conversation. They have a rough idea. Yeah. They just don't want to show their cards first, which is fair. If somebody called me, or if I was reaching out, I wouldn't want to give my number first, right? I think it's very rare that somebody's going to give you their number first.
So I've gotten pretty good at getting them to give me the number first. Is just I just kind of keep pressing them, like, hey, I have no idea. Like, you just called me up. Like, you've lived in the house for 20 years. You've obviously been thinking about this. I'm assuming you probably already called some other postcards or talked to some realtors. Like, if I'm going to drive out there, I at least need to know a range of where you're going to be at to see if it makes any sense for us to do business together. Yeah. So I at least try to get like a range, try to see, somewhat of a price range that they would accept if it's cash as is. If they really won't give anything, I'll usually just be like, well, in the last few months we bought a similar property, and then like hit them with kind of a lower anchor, but kind of keep it pretty vague. Yeah. And try to see how they react.
Yeah.
I got a really good one. Can I share it with you guys?
Yeah.
So this is from my real estate coach, and that's because after I left a couple of appointments, like, I would say it was my fault because I was too scared to lose the appointment as an investor, because like, this is a big opportunity, that I didn't do what I would have done if it was a listing opportunity. But then the one thing,
let me rephrase that. He was afraid to walk out of there without something.
Yeah.
So he went in as a realtor.
Yeah. So it was like a little bit of a weird situation. What he was telling me to do, and it was genius advice. He's like, when you go in there and you put the folder on the table, have the folder on the table, look at the seller and say, so I've done my 3 to 4 hours worth of research and I have my numbers here. John, Ricky, curious, what do you think the most the buyer is willing to pay for your home? And psychologically, because I'm grabbing the folder, you're assuming I already have the number here, but I'm just wanting to hear what you're thinking. Yeah. And what the value of the property is what a buyer is willing to pay for the home. So by saying, what do you think the most the buyer is willing to pay for your home? They'll give you a number because they now think that you've already written it in there. It's probably like in big bold numbers, like it's $100. And he's like, but the reality is it's comparables. It's based off of interpretation of the comps and the property. So he's like, when you're in that situation, then you could adjust your strategy instantly.
Yeah. As long as it always comes back to like, how can I best help this person? Right.
Correct.
Because you're not trying to steal it. It's what is their issue? What is their problem? Do they need the money quickly because they need to, their wife needs to do an operation? Do they, you know what I mean? Like, do they even have the time to go on the market? Do they have the money to repair the house?
Yeah. Well, you would know that before you go on the appointment.
Yeah, of course.
Just for the purposes of uncovering that number.
Yeah, totally.
John just made it seem like I was trying to steal property.
No.
He's like, no, you do not steal that.
I just know that people can misconstrue what was said.
Yeah, KIRO, I think on that point too, what sometimes I like when you're dealing with sellers who are acting like that, I have no idea. I'll go like, okay, look, if I come to the property and I make you an offer, how are you going to decide if I'm robbing you or if that's a great offer? How are you going to decide if you have no idea what a fair offer is? What's my number going to be to you? So then at least, oh, well, my cousin's a realtor. And now it's like, okay, now I'm like understanding their decision-making process, how they're going to like determine what's the best thing to do with this house.
Yeah.
So that's a good little tip on those two is questioning them about how are you going to decide if my offer is good or bad.
Yeah. No, that's pretty genius too. And if someone's saying they're relying on information from someone else, then you know that they're an external personality type. So when you're talking to them and making general statements like, well, everybody knows that when you're selling the house, you have to sell it with, you could do those kind of things to push the conversation. Yeah. If they act like they know it all, like, well, I'll know when the offer is right.
And they're internal.
Yes. And you're going to be like, well, I don't have to tell you that when we get together, like you could have more of that conversation where you're being salesy. You're having a little bit more influence in that conversation.
So talk. Go ahead. Talk to us about your process. So you said before in New Jersey, you like to buy things at least at 50% to the ARV, right? After repair value. So let's say you're talking to a prospective seller, you think the ARV is 400,000 and you think they're willing to sell it for 200,000. What are the next steps of your process?
Yeah. So generally I'm looking at, like I said, I always try to get a number out of them. So once I kind of figure out, okay, that's what their number at, then I go and underwrite the deal. So I try to underwrite the deal. I figure out, what is the ARV? What are all my exit strategies essentially? So we have wholesale. We could close on it and just relist it. We could do like a light rehab, like a wholesale, and then put it on the market. We could do a full flip, try to get, max out the ARV and sell it that way. Or we could like burr it into a rental. That's kind of like all of our exits. So once I figure out it's a motivated seller, they're asking like a reasonable wholesale type price, I underwrite it in all those different ways based upon kind of the condition, the house, the location, the taxes. Like, in New Jersey, so many houses, the taxes are over $8,000. I'm not using that as a rental. So right away it's like, okay, that doesn't work as a rental. And then it's kind of a determination between like velocity of money and maximizing profit. So sometimes it's like, okay, we could, just close on it and immediately resell and make 40 grand, or, and that'll be done in like a month. Or we could do a full rehab and that might take 6-7 months, but we might make, 100,000 doing that. So then it's kind of just determining between kind of what other projects we have going on, how busy we are, to determine what the best exit strategy is. Yeah. But typically, if we're going to like actually contract a deal, we have multiple good exit strategies. And then it's just a matter of sometimes even we'll close it and then see. Like we had one where we closed on it and we're like, I don't know, I feel like we might be able to just make the same profit if we just sell it as is compared to if we fixed it up. Yeah. So then we put it on the market as is and see if we could get that number. If we can't, we just waste a week of holding costs, which isn't that big of a deal, especially if we stay under like $300K for the most part in New Jersey. And then we might decide, okay, actually let's fix it up and try to maximize that profit. So I think when you find a really good deal, there should be like multiple obvious good exit strategies. And that's how kind of like what we were talking about, like me and my partner, Steve, we literally do our underwriting like so simple. We're like, I'd probably sell for around this. You probably have to put 40K into it, probably like 20K in holding costs. Our maximum offer is going to be this price. And then we just try to get it as deeply below that maximum allowed offer price as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's funny. I think a lot of people, not only are they afraid to pull the trigger on buying investment property and wholesales and all that, because they have realtor brain or they just, are worried about the potential risk. But they probably don't even want to go out of like a 30-minute radius of their house. And if this wasn't clear from the beginning of this episode, you're doing this from Arizona. You're buying homes in New Jersey.
It's crazy.
Which you're obviously not seeing.
Yeah.
But obviously you have boots on the ground. So talk to us about your process. You just hung up the phone with a great seller or a prospective seller. You think there's a deal to be had. You've underwritten it. What are your next steps? What's your boots on the ground? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so it depends. Like, I'll bring up like two scenarios. We just bought one in Gloucester City, which is too far south for us to really flip. But it was a great situation. And
why too far south to flip?
Just my partner, Steve, he lives in Robbinsville. So like we try to stick within a 30, 45 minute radius for all of our crews there. So this was a little too south for us. It was a smoking deal. I think the guy wanted, the number he gave me is like if I could get 33K for it, or I think he wanted 35. I countered with 30 and we bought it for 33. And the property as is value is like 90,000.
Nice.
So on a property like that, he was a younger, savvier guy. Like the price made sense. I just sent him the DocuSign as soon as I was like, yeah, if we could do 33, like, are you ready to go? Are you ready to sign? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I just sent him a DocuSign and we locked it up. And we ended up closing on it last week. And like Steve didn't even go see the property until after we closed on it.
Yeah.
But we knew we got it at such a good deal that pretty much he sent some photos of the property to us. We pretty much knew like it's fine because we bought it at such a good deal. Now, another property we had last week, these were older folks. They were like asking us for our fax number. So like in this type of a situation, we like to take more the kitchen table approach. So I will pretty much figure out what's their lowest price that they'd be willing to take if we come out and see it. I try to set it up with like an upfront contract of like, hey, we're coming to buy the house. Like, as long as we can make sense on price and we're both happy, are you guys ready to sign? So I really tee up the appointments in a way like Steve's going there just to get the contract signed, essentially.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just decide if it's like an in-person, if it's more competitive and we know there's multiple offers, we like to always get boots on the ground and actually meet the seller face to face and go see the property. Because there are a lot of wholesalers out there that they're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you always do have an advantage if you could go see the property. It's just a matter of like, if we feel like it's needed or not.
Yeah.
If it's not needed, we send the DocuSign, but if it is needed, I'll just set like a really, really firm, good appointment, vet out all the bullshit. And I mean, Steve closes like 90% of the appointments he goes to. So
sure.
That's pretty dope. It's because of the prequel that you do is so strong that he actually gets it signed with ease.
And I think the whole process too. A lot of these people are calling you, right? Off a postcard instead of you seeking them out. So they've sought you out. You're saying to them, here are your options. You could just give it to a realtor. Why don't you do that? Which causes them to give you their real concerns. And then you're sending somebody in person. So I think that's, you know, overall it sounds probably a little bit basic and obvious, but no, I think that's a really fine-tuned process.
Yeah.
So I think here the $1 million question, no pun intended, is I think there are people watching this going, all right, well, this is really cool. You guys probably have money in the bank. You know, that's great for you that you can close on all these properties because you got money. But how are you guys financing these deals? Are you using hard money? Are you using private money? Are you using your own money?
Yeah. So when we first started, we were just wholesaling probably our first 5 to 10 deals, I would say, something like that.
In what time frame?
2019
and
early 2020. So at first we were just wholesaling and we were loud about it. Like I was making social media posts. I got into like trying to grow my social media, you know, change my Instagram tag to Real Estate Ricky. People started seeing what I was doing. When that happens, then it's like, you kind of just got to be strategic in your own life. You probably have people in your life that have 100K on the sidelines, where if you could pay them like 10% interest only, they would do that all day if they felt like their money was safe. So once we did some wholesale deals and it was like, oh, Ricky's like doing his own thing. He's wholesaling and looks like he's like doing business and real estate deals. People would reach out to me and be like, oh, I want to get into flipping houses. And then I would kind of educate them. Well, it's a lot of work. You got to like find really good deals, and to find really good deals is hard. And they're like, yeah, I don't want to do all that, but I do have money. And I'm like, well, what if I just use your money on these deals and it's backed by real estate? And that's how we acquired 3 to 4 private money lenders that we still use today.
Nice.
And, you know, like I was saying, our average purchase, I mean, we keep stuff really under 300K, but our average purchase is probably like 150 to 200. So if you have $1 million of private money, you could recycle a lot. Like you can do a lot of deals with just a small amount compared to like, you know, in Arizona, the average purchase price here is like 400 plus rehab. So you need a lot more private money out here to be doing high volume compared to what we're doing in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we don't use really any hard money lenders on any flips we've ever done. We've always just used private money, and we pay our investors 10% interest only on the back end when we sell. So we don't even have monthly payments or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even if it's a 1 month flip, they still get 10%.
Yeah.
Got it.
They'll get 10%. And a lot of them though, it's like, sometimes we just keep their money. Like we have this one private money lender who's got like 200K with us. And if it's like a 1 month type flip and we know another one's like in the pipeline, we'll just keep it going.
Yeah. And it just keeps compounding with every single deal.
Yeah. Within like the year, usually then we'll do a payoff.
Got it.
And just kind of see like, hey, here's your interest. Like, do you want the money back? Do you want it to keep working? And most of the guys, honestly, like they want the money to just stay in there.
Yeah.
So usually we'll at least do a payoff like after like a flip closes or something. And then we'll be like, hey, we could send like the entire wire back, or do you just want your interest? And then we could use this. We have another deal coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. So we have pretty close relationships with all of our private lenders too, where like we're not even recording like deeds with them, just promissory notes. They don't even know about the properties. They're just like, yeah, do your thing. Like just keep paying me my 10% every month. Like that's all I want. So
that's awesome.
That's what I do with my bookie. I'm like, just keep it in. Just keep it in.
Roll it over.
Yeah, roll over.
Have you ever done any like of the creative financing stuff, like sub-2s or stuff like that?
I have a podcast myself out in Arizona with a bunch of creative finance guys.
Yeah.
And I love talking about it. I love structuring deals like that. And I'm sure I will probably here soon at some point. I've recently, like, I would say I've added it to actually like my tool belt. Just like realtors should add wholesaling, as you know, and flipping and rentals to their tool belt. I'm at the point where I'm adding creative to the tool belt. I think when you're starting out though, it's hard to have every exit strategy available because then all of a sudden, like you're talking to sellers and you're qualifying, and everyone kind of gives a little bit of a hard time about price. And it's like, if your goal is just to buy it, no, I need to buy it at 50 cents or lower on the dollar. You get laser focused in on that and you become really good at doing that. But if all of a sudden, if like you could pitch creative and at a higher price and try to make kind of shitty deals work, essentially, I just think it kind of is like that shiny object syndrome, which is so real in real estate that you really have to avoid that. So I would say I definitely probably have passed up on some deals because I was like laser focused, but I think it was the right thing to do kind of in hindsight.
Yeah.
I think I'm at the point now though, like if I do talk to a low equity lead and I know like cash isn't going to work and there is motivation and distress there, I'll consider, you know, whether doing terms, novations. Like we actually just JV'd a deal on a lead that we had. It didn't work for a cash offer, but it worked as a novation. So we just are doing like a 50-50 split with a guy that in Jersey that does novations. So I don't have to worry about all that complicated paperwork and like, I don't want to deal with all that, but I found someone that could give me that exit strategy. So I think that's a good move too sometimes.
Can you explain novation? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just a novation essentially is a creative finance way of like, you would say, let's say the seller wanted like 220 and you think on the market it could sell for 270. This is this deal that we have. But for cash, we'd really need it at like 180. So it's not going to work as cash, but they are willing to sell at a discount. So
not a big enough discount.
Right. Not a big enough discount. So essentially you contract with the seller that they're going to get their 220. And then I would hire a realtor to just list it. And the difference between 220 and what it ends up selling for after all my costs is what I would make.
Yeah.
Now, I personally, like, I don't love novations. I think it's kind of like gray area.
A little bit, yeah. Because they could have just listed it themselves.
They should just list it or do this. But it does work sometimes in some situations. And I know some guys in South Jersey doing it. So this was a situation where I'm like, hey, it's not going to work for cash, but I think there is a deal here. And then I just set the lead to those guys. And now they're doing their novation thing with it.
Yeah.
And then if it closes, we'll end up splitting it on the back end.
Well, the other scenario I've seen people do novations on too is if it, like the scenario you said, right? So on the market, it goes for 270. You think you could get it for 220. So you sometimes could pay. I think some of the novation guys are paying out of their pocket to do a minor rehab on the property that the seller may not have that money or the resources to do it. So you're renovating a property you don't necessarily own yet. And if it sells for more, you get all of the upside above X number of dollars.
Yeah, some guys are doing that. Like me personally, like I'm not rehabbing a house if I don't have the title.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, but that's just like an example of one way. Same thing. Like sometimes in Arizona, I don't want like a bunch of random no equity sub-2 single family rentals out here. Like my goal in Arizona is not to own a bunch of single family rentals and like build that up. So if I come across a lead out here. There's all these like Pace. He's built this massive sub-2 community out in Phoenix where that's what people want. So if I see a good opportunity where, you know, the lead came to me and they're motivated, distressed, but they have no equity, I'm like, okay, this would make sense to pitch sub-2. So then I just have someone that I have a good relationship with that I just send that lead to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I like to kind of stay in my lane, but
that's smart.
I know how to identify, you know, when cash doesn't make sense. How to do it, all the other options, even like with listings, like sometimes we'll get a listing out of our leads in New Jersey and then we just like refer it out and get paid 25%.
Sure.
So you guys know what you're good at.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I took away from a lot of what's been going on recently, especially with the kind of people we're calling and stuff like that, is something from Ray Dalio. He was talking about like creating principles in terms of how you analyze things moving forward. And I literally have like a questionnaire in my pre-qual now. It's like, what's the equity amount? What's there? And it's like, is this an option for creative financing? And it goes in terms of like, how did they describe the definition of the property? And what did they rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? If it's below 8, is this a potential purchase?
Sure.
Like, and I'm like literally asking myself these questions so that way I can keep my realtor focus on. But then if one of those things get triggered, I'm like, wait, there's something here? Yes or no? Is there something here? Yes or no?
Sure.
That way I don't constantly waste opportunities and go to an appointment and be like, shit, now I need to switch from realtor to investor. This doesn't work like that. Because you need to go in there, like you said at first, investor, then maybe say, here's another option that we can help you with.
Yeah. And I think for me too, just like my personal life, like I like anything that's just kind of wasteful time. Like I don't like going to appointments, even like if it's going to be like a small shitty deal. Yeah. Like I'd rather do less deals and have a higher average deal value and just not be on the phones or not be trying to underwrite a million deals all day long. Like I'm okay doing that. Like in 2021, that was like our first eye-opening year where I was like, oh shit, we did $1 million, but it was off 20 deals. Yeah. We averaged 75,000 in net profit per deal.
Nice.
So like there's a lot of different ways to do it. So if I see a situation and it just doesn't, it should be pretty obvious that it's a deal. You shouldn't have to like
convince
really
yourself.
Go in a deep underwriting and be like, well, maybe if we I hear a lot about like the lender, oh man, like that deal's not going to work because my lender's charging me 2 points. It's like if 2 points is going to be the make or break on a flip, you probably shouldn't be flipping that deal.
Yeah.
So we've probably let some small deals kind of go on the wayside, but at the same time, when you really look at the value of your time, it's like I work like an hour a day on the New Jersey business.
Wow.
Like that's it.
Wow.
I prefer to do that than to try to make 20% more working 4 times the amount of work, I guess.
Talk to us in closing. One thing that we didn't touch upon too much was some of the marketing efforts that you're putting out there. I know you talked about Postcards. You did some stuff on SEO. Like you said, your website's very high ranking. Any other initiatives that you guys are putting money into and that have been serving you well?
So throughout the years, we've done all the marketing. So I break it down like this. You have data marketing. So, pull big lists of data, skip trace it. Now you have all these phone numbers. You can do 3 things with those. You could text them, cold call them, or send ringless voicemails. All the data marketing since like 2019 has gotten way more restricted and harder to do, just with regulations and different things like that. And data marketing is a lot of work. Like you have to be like, okay, am I pulling good list of data? And then am I getting good skip tracing data? And then are my cold callers, are they on good scripts? And then like, are my text messages having a high send rate? So it's like, it's just complicated and a lot to manage, but it is cheap to generate a lot of leads. So if you're new starting out, data marketing, it's good. In New Jersey, we ran radio ads. We ran radio ads on 101.5, like the biggest radio station in New Jersey for old people. We did that for a whole summer. It didn't work out too good, so we cut that. That was pretty expensive. So now we pretty much just focus on inbound marketing because, like I said, it's just me and my partner. I'm answering all the phone calls. Like we have very low overhead. We probably spend $4,000 a month total between like all of our systems, marketing.
Nice.
So we're just kind of like a lean machine with some good, highly qualified inbound leads. We've tried bandit signs. They seem to work better in Arizona, New Jersey. I don't know. I think it's New Jersey people, man. They see those signs, they just rip them down, and
Exactly.
And the cities
those
give you
are the telephone pole signs.
Yeah, like the telephone pole signs. So we've tried that. So we've tried it all. I think all marketing works, but like you should pick something and stick with it for a while and get really good at it. But it all works. We've literally gotten deals probably every single type of marketing channel. At this point, though, we really just focus on the most qualified, motivated seller leads, which in my opinion, ranking it number 1 is SEO, number 2 is mail, number 3 is PPC. And then, I mean, if you're running like TV or radio ads, like those are great leads too, because you also have that credibility of like, oh, the radio guy, like the TV guy, like he's trustworthy. So yeah, if you could do like that's, but like I said, a TV ad is going to be probably your most expensive cost per lead. So I don't mind kind of paying more per lead for more qualified lead, if that makes sense.
It does. It's spending your time there. When you say SEO, I'm just curious real quick if we have 2 more minutes. When you say SEO is number one, what do you mean by that? Like the search engine optimization for like the website itself?
Just as far as that type of a lead seems to be the highest converting into a like wholesale price type deal.
Yeah, so someone who fills out like an application from your website.
Yeah, it's like the last one we got. It was, I get the form and it has their name, info, and it's like just inherited a family property, bunch of stuff in it, looking to sell ASAP. It's like you call that person up. It's just easy, right?
Yeah.
What was their motivation? Just out of curiosity, that person.
Yeah, inherited the property, and then the house had a bunch of stuff in it, and her and her 2 sisters lived like 2 hours away. I think their like older brother, who was like kind of low level type guy, passed away in it. So they didn't have really any skin in the game per se. I think those are always great leads too. Like if you're not making those mortgage payments for 20 years, you're not as worried about price.
Yeah.
So she just didn't want to move the house. There's a bunch of crap in the house.
We call that finding money in your couch.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as I told her, that, no, you could just leave everything in the house. We'll take care of it. She's like, oh my God. Like, can you be at the house tomorrow? I just want to be done with this. And we're like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I've just, in my experience, those have been just the most qualified leads.
Yeah.
Compared to any other leads. Like, and the worst leads are probably cold call, just because you're getting that what's your price? I don't need to sell type sellers.
Yeah. Do you think you get more distressed people because of your price point? Like, would you say there's more sophisticated, less distressed people in the $400,000 to $700,000 range?
Yes, I would. I think typically, the cheaper houses, more like the average person is like probably like doesn't even know what Zillow is, honestly. Like they're like tax assessment. They don't have all these different options. Like that's like our bread and butter is like the cheaper houses. When you get more expensive, they typically like they're not going to run into financial distress. Like it's not as big of a deal. Like if it takes a few months to just like list it and let that ride out. But our best deal actually we made $175K off it. Was a $550K house in New Haven, like a little beach town.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the guy just didn't want to deal with his nosy neighbors. It was like a little pocket and like everyone knows everyone. And he just kind of wanted to scoot out of there real quick. And it was super hard to comp because there was only like one sale in a mile in the last year.
Yeah.
But we knew it was super desirable. So it was hard to price, but like he gave us a price. We took a chance on it and then sold it 2 weeks later for like $175K more.
Wow.
Which was like way more than we thought. But yeah, so our best deal actually did come in kind of that 500 to 700 price range, but that's uncommon. Usually you're not going to find as financially distressed people. It's like typically like not in a bad way, but a lot of the people we buy from, like they've been making like not the best financial decisions their whole life. Yeah. Like if you get yourself in this situation, unfortunately, like you probably procrastinated and now you're just like choosing the best of your worst options.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to say it.
You can't really do much about that for them by the time they get to me.
Yeah.
I once took John to a hoarder house because we had the whole outbound system you were talking about for like digital or like calling out. We had that whole operation running where we had 16, 17 outbound callers making cold calls every single day.
Yeah.
The numbers were being skip traced. It was like, what lead source are we calling through? What skip tracing service are we having? Is it correct? Is it spam likely numbers?
17 times.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
It was a pain in the ass, huge pain in the ass. But we would get a lot of opportunities in there that one of the guys, I looked at it, I was like, this is a piece of shit looking house. There's like a bunch of shit on the Google Maps, the image of it. So I take him there. It's in a town called Belleville. As soon as we pull up and park in the house, we go inside. The seller opens the door. He looks at me and I know his facial expression. He's like, I ain't going in this shit. And I'm like, go, go, go. Then this dog pops out of nowhere and the house is completely stuffed. You remember this place?
Yeah.
He was like, he looks at me, he's like, I'm coming back here to let that dog free. Because it's like,
my goal was, and I'm not like a PETA, like animal humane freak, but I always grew up with dogs and I appreciate animals.
I still have that video.
Immensely. my goal was to let KIRO go on the appointment, distract the guy, and I was gonna fucking save the dog. But I don't know where. Yeah,
but that guy was insane because the house was in complete like mess.
Yeah.
He was in financial distress, but he was so unrealistic about his price point. And he was just like, well, if I get this, I'll make it work. And it was like right at like that max number that would actually make sense. And we didn't know how bad the house was until we got there.
The other problem though with New Jersey is you can not pay for your home for
7 years,
extensive period of time.
Oh yeah,
and have no recourse. So like that's probably a guy like that, right? True. Where he's got a higher priced home.
But then that guy eventually like let the timeline go further, and that's the guy you end up buying his house for 50 cents on the dollar, even cheaper, like a year down the road when like the tax foreclosure is finally going to go down.
Yeah.
So it's just like, unfortunately, like a lot of those people, like they've been like making like bad financial decisions their whole life. It's like, this is just adding to it. So if you're coming in there, it's like, just do what you say you're going to do, actually close on the deal, give them all their options. But yeah, you're just dealing with a lot of people. Like my girlfriend's mom, like she sold her house. Like I was like, why don't you do this? Why don't? She's like, no. I just want to like fix it up and sell it and be done with it. And some people just want that, you know, they just really prioritize convenience and ease, and getting every last dollar isn't.
Exactly. And you know, I think a lot of times I got stuck in my mind. I'm like, if I'm the kind of person where if I put my house on the market, I want to get every dollar. Like I don't want to leave any money on the table.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that will trade convenience and quickness for, you know, a lower offer, right? And it's funny, like dealing like in the prospecting world, we've all dealt with like FSBOs, right? FSBOs always think that they can do it. They can do what we do, right? And not have to pay us. So there's that category of people who think that they can do what we do. They're open to having open houses every single weekend and having all these people in. But then there's a whole nother bucket of people that are saying, I don't want anybody in my house.
Right.
I don't want my neighbor to know. I don't want anybody to know. I want this to be done. Even if it's at a lower price, just make it done.
Yeah.
So
and it's hard to put a price tag on that. You know, there's not many guys out there when you really think about it that will just like walk the property one time, give you a number on a, you know, our PSA is 1 page long. Like it is literally just saying we're buying your house as is, cash, no backing out, no nothing, right? Like hard EMD, no inspection periods. So like some people like just really appreciate that, and that's all they're looking for. They want to like sign the dotted line, and then all their problems are solved. And you know, a listing agreement doesn't do that for that type of a seller. Yeah. So it's like, you know, if you find that seller that wants that, and you are an agent, and probably a lot of agents listen to it, just give them that option initially. And then like if that seems like what they might want, and then if that price just doesn't, if they're like, no way, and they go back to price, then it's like, turn your listing hat back on.
Exactly. Awesome.
Sweet, man.
Awesome, man. Well, we've gone over our time. We really do appreciate you spending some time with us today, especially on a Friday evening. And this has been really, really valuable. I think people will certainly have a lot of takeaways from this. And let us know if we can ever, you know, do anything to help you.
Yeah. Any deals in like that central South Jersey area, let me know.
What's the best way for someone to reach out to refer one of those?
Probably Instagram, at Real Estate Ricky _.
At Real Estate.
That'll be the best way.
Sweet.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. And we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thanks guys. It was fun.